Are you ready?
Yep.
Howdy, everybody, and welcome to episode 238 of The Center Ring. And this is going to be the best episode ever because we have some CDL Florida to get to. We had a chance to talk to some of the boys from FaZe after their victory, so we'll get into some of that. We have a very special clutch or kick for you, talking some Halo, Infinite, Master Chief Collection, and some CS thrown in there as well. But before we get to any of that, you gotta go to altesports.com and get yourself a 101 Burglars hoodie brought to you by your very own TCR. They are sponsoring the show, and they were nice enough to say, guys, let's do a lineup. Let's have some fun with it. So we got really super original, inspired by no one, and said, let's go and do 101 Burglars. And so sure enough, it's there. It is a hot red. You will stand out. And look, we'll get to it later in the show, but I don't want to brag. One of our listener wears it on stream, and an org offered him a streaming contract to stream for their org. I don't think it was the skill that did it, folks. I think it was the hoodie. And if you want my opinion, I think it was the hoodie. So I'm not saying it's going to happen to you, but I'm not saying it won't. So definitely go to altesports.com and get yourself a 101 Burglars hoodie today.
This is Chris Blair, and you're listening to The Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. This is episode 238. Follow us on Twitter at the Center Ring, and everything else. Discord, it's in the link. It's in our bio on Twitter. Website tcr.gg. It's got everything else there that you need, including YouTube and all that fun stuff that you should definitely subscribe to. My name is Tim. I'll be your host for this journey into esports, and alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
Glad I haven't been replaced yet. I felt it coming after last episode.
Not yet. No. And you would definitely be replaced, because we all know I can't be the minority.
No, for sure. I thought I was a gunner. I'm glad to be back for this episode, Tim.
For now. Thanks again, though, for Launders for coming on. That was a lot of fun. We've gotten a lot of good feedback on it. So yeah, no, it was. Still can't believe he stuck around that long, but good dude. But enough about last episode. Let's get into this episode because I think we got ourselves a good one on our hands, Anuj. Let's get into some CDL because it's kind of crazy that it's like, man, oh, by the way, it's May 13th at 8:48 p.m. It's Wednesday night. CDL Florida wrapped up on Sunday. And you know how we were talking with Launders? I can't remember if it was in the actual show or just shooting the breeze before we started recording. But we were talking about esports time and how it's just 4 months ago feels like forever ago. Sunday feels like forever ago.
This feels like old news. It feels like everybody knows everything at this point.
Like, why are we talking CDL?
We wanted to talk about it last week. The Launders interview obviously took up a decent chunk of the show, so we wanted to spend a little bit more time on this, and so wanted to get into it today.
And also, I will give a shout out to the league because they have been very kind to us in the sense of, because you obviously can't go to the event, so there's no press coverage of this whatsoever, right? Well, the league was very smart and intuitive thinking and said, wait a minute, we can do this all online. So they started doing this just with Dallas. So it's kind of fresh. But Mondays after championship, they'll have members of the press, the media, aka us, and we get to talk to some of the players from the winning team. And then even like for the Friday beforehand, we were cranking and burning some interviews. We were
Yeah.
talking to a handful of players that were competing over the weekend. So we were like, well, okay, do we wait and do this Sunday? Or we're talking to the guys on Monday. Just wait. Let's talk to Simp, which you heard the fastest liner in the West.
This is Chris Blair, and you're listening to the Center Ring.
That's the
His
fast.
personality really shined in that
I
one.
mean, it's just, listen,
This is Chris Blair, and you're listening to the Center Ring.
just
out, camera off, done.
shooting from the hip right there. I've never had someone do the liner so fast. But Simp did it in Simp's ways. But no, so we got to talk to Simp, Attach. Who else? Methods.
Yeah, no, we had some really good conversations with these guys. So Methods we spoke to prior to the event. Attach and Simp we spoke to during the event after they'd already played a game or two, I believe, at that point. But it was we got some consistent feedback, I thought, Tim. And a lot of that revolved around, hey, who is the surprise team? Who's going to turn up this weekend? Considering we're lacking some star power, right, in this event. We only had Atlanta FaZe that was out of the top three. Chicago, Dallas, both were not in attendance at this event. And so we wanted to know and kind of get firsthand from these guys, who's going to step up? Who's going to fill this void of talent? And it was pretty much 100% consensus, which is very rare for us, and it was the New York subliners. And, not to our surprise, because we had heard it from them, they did. They really performed well in this event, but it was surprising that they were kind of the one that everybody jumped on, like, hey, watch out for this team, whether it be scrims or whatever, but that was the team.
Yeah, it's just, and it was kind of odd because we even talked to Attach after their loss, right?
Yeah.
With him, we talked to him right after their loss against Toronto. Yes, because we talked to Methods beforehand, and then we talked to Attach afterwards. And it was kind of funny because, we were talking to him and said, like, bro, going into this, everyone said that you guys were the ones with the target on your back, funny enough. Like, and even it's like people are saying, like, well, but what about FaZe? No, even Methods, he said their biggest challenge this weekend is that if they can get past New York, they feel good about their chances going into the rest of the weekend. So even with FaZe there, it was kind of surprising. But like you said, to New York's credit, kind of proved everyone's wrong. Apparently, their scrims have just been dynamite, which is kind of why people have started saying that, they're turning it around. And I think just overall, I think we're seeing it to where teams are somewhat either they're figuring the game out or they're getting just more comfortable playing at home, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the key things from playing from home is you don't have that pressure of the audience, right? So you're in your comfort zone, kind of like Launders mentioned last week. Your chair is set to the perfect height, like the way you're positioned is very comfortable. So, you do expect to maybe see some of these teams that have struggled on the big stage. If they performed well, that's a possible reason as to why. But yeah, I thought from both Toronto for the subliners, it was obvious. Mac was a difference maker for him. He was a new sub in for him, and he played out of his mind. He played really, really good. You could see why the hype around him was where it was at, and they did. They turned up for this event. They shut out the Mutineers. They took them out 3-0. That's a team that we talk about being in the top 5, top 6 in the league. They won an event, which is obviously very difficult to do. And so they came out, they 3-0'd them. They 3-0'd then the Rocker, another team that again is there in the top 3-4 teams in the league, that's consistently played well up until the last event. I think they struggled a little bit last time around, but looked really good. I feel like coming out of this weekend, I can see why the second half could really be a race to the finish with a handful of teams that right now we look at and we're like, oh man, like they're at the bottom of the standings. They haven't won an event. They haven't even made playoffs. Like they have no chance. I think we're going to be a little surprised what the standings end up showing at the end of the year.
Well, and this is why I still don't think it's been confirmed, but the leaked playoff format with all 12 teams being involved now, this is why I'm so excited for that type of format, right?
Yeah.
Because it allows a team like New York, who has struggled all season long, to then maybe pick it up at the right time. And if you get hot at the right time, make that right roster move or things like that, it's like, okay, guys, it's our season's not completely done. You have a little bit more of a climb to get to it, but at least you're not completely out of it for, especially this year, right? Considering the first half of the season was so different compared to the second, just given circumstances in the world and everything.
Yeah.
I think it's, and we even talked to a lot of the players about that playoff format, and all of them pretty much said for the most part that same thing that we said on the show, is that it's not entirely different from what they're used to. They're like, it's kind of like what Worlds was, right? You had the season, but then everyone was after that thrown back into Worlds, and you could have a chance to kind of redeem yourself from where you were. So not a lot of hate towards that, as as far as what Twitter would make you believe.
Yeah, I mean, having an opportunity to see everybody at the end is huge. Because right now, if it was even like the top 8 teams out of 12, you would be missing out on teams like Ultra, Subliners, Surge. Like all these teams are currently at the bottom, but they're only trailing by a handful of points between them and like 6th place. It's like really, really close. And so I do like that format idea. I really hope that sticks, and that is the game plan. Um, it's a team like Optic. Look at them. At the beginning of the season, Tim, we thought this team was really, I mean, we thought they were lost. They looked lost in the way that they played. They lost their home opener to the Gorillas, and the Gorillas were looking pretty bad at the time. I think there was a point where Optic was like the only defeated team out there, and here they are in the finals of an event. Granted, they did have a little bit of an easier path. Like that has to be notated, right? They lost to the Ravens in the opener. They came back and beat the Legion. They came back and then beat the Ravens on a second match against them, and then beat the Ultra to get into the finals there. So it's not like they had the most difficult path, but it was important to see that since their roster change, dropping JCap, bringing Chino in, like Chino, I don't think was the most highly respected guy going into this event. I don't think people saw that move as a long-term move. It was just a move to make a move until they figured out what they were going to do. But Chino really stepped up, and these guys played so well. And again, you look at the names on that team and you're like, oh, like we've been maybe underselling them a little bit. Like they should be a good team with the talent that they have there. Kenny, freaking Dashy, Slasher, like these are champions, world champions, recent world champions, not dated ones. So again, another team that I'm excited to see what the second half holds for them. I'm also excited to see what Optic does in a tournament where they're going to be playing a little bit more top tier competition.
Yeah, and I think for that we have a little bit, because even the next event, which will be what would have been Seattle's homestand, coming up here on the 22nd. So just next weekend, not this upcoming one, but in about 2 weeks, you have. I mean, honestly, after Minnesota's performance here, this is probably like one of the most lackluster events all year long. You have Chicago, which is the big dog, but then you have London, Gorillas, Minnesota, New York, Optic, Paris, and then obviously Seattle.
Optic and New York get me relatively excited. Seattle does have Enable returning to the lineup for their homestand, so maybe it re-energizes that team. That's another lineup that you look at and you're like, dude, they should be so much better than they are. Apathy, Octane,
That's
obviously
been their
Enable
storyline
coming
though
back.
since the start.
I'm sorry?
That's been the storyline with Seattle from the start.
Yeah, like we expected them to be a very competitive team in this league, and they've been pretty lackluster. So maybe Enable coming back kind of re-energizes them. It is the homestand weekend. It's a weaker field to go up against. So if you want to capitalize, like that would have to be the time for Seattle. But the rest of the teams, Subliners, Optic, these guys I feel like are going to be coming in riding a high. Even though New York lost in the semis this weekend and Optic losing in the finals, they still at least took a map off Atlanta. They took game 1 off of them in a fairly close hard point map. Subliners lost 3-2 to Atlanta in the semis. In I think one of the matches was like a 250-247 match. It was insanely close, and unfortunately lost the map 5 there. But both of those guys going in, You kind of hope for them to perform well for the sake of like kind of leveling out the playing field in the league. It's been so top heavy for the first 4 or 5 tournaments. It's a little frustrating because there's several games where I'm just kind of tuned out. If these guys pick it up, it's going to make it better for all of us, going into the end of the year.
Maybe that's what the league kind of needs, right? Is a Seattle homestand where you don't have every or at least 2 of the top teams in there because again, Minnesota's in there, but after this last weekend, you just don't know what they're doing because realistically, you have Seattle. Now Minnesota's homestand though, which is in June 5th, the weekend of June 5th. That is going to be like a season-changing homestand because you have FaZe, Huntsman, Empire, Florida, Minnesota, all in there. And then with your weaker teams, Gorillas, Surge, and Ultra. So that one, I think, like that's the one everyone should mark on their calendars as far as if you're interested on the top of the table. But as far as mixing things up, I think that's what Seattle, if you need a storyline for Seattle, that's your storyline, right? Is that you could have another situation where you have a team like Optic make the finals and maybe pick up some points that they never would have gotten. They would never have gotten 30
It can be
points.
a confidence boost for several teams leading into the rest of the year. And maybe that's what they need, right? That Minnesota weekend, I think that weekend is going to tell us, hey, who's currently the best team? We'll have an opportunity. I mean, at least 2 of them will be going head to head at some point in that tournament. But that tournament would let us know, I think, who the best team currently is. This tournament, this next one upcoming here in Seattle, are both opportunities for some of the lesser teams to make up some ground and also build some confidence going into later in the year.
So again, I'm just going to give a little shout out for the league because they definitely hook us up with player interviews. So check that out at YouTube. If you I think it's like COD League, youtube.com/COD League, I think is what it is. But
they really did. They really hooked us up. That was pretty awesome of them. And honestly, I mean, I would love for this to be the way it is like going forward.
I know, right? Dude,
this was like easy, and it felt really comfortable, I think, for us and the players. So
yeah.
Props to them on how they handled this.
Yeah, this been really made it kind of easier to cover the league too. Other than that, let's get to some show news that I forgot that I was going to actually start the show with. Some show news. Right before we started recording, Joey, one of our listeners, asked, when are we going to do another documentary review? So we figured it out just like that because we're professionals. The CS major, the Rio major, was supposed to be next weekend, which was also supposed to be DreamHack weekend. It's a very...
Let's not talk about that right now.
It's going to be a depressing weekend, folks. Just, we're not getting the major. We're not getting DreamHack. There's very little to live for. I'm not saying, but if you were going to off yourself, this would be the time to do it. You shouldn't. I'm not saying don't do it, but I could understand.
You are saying don't do it.
Do not do it. Don't kill yourself.
Yes.
But if you were,
I want to go ahead and pull this up real quick. This is a good time to
so we are going
to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and just throw out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number just in case. I feel like it's a responsible thing to do. It's 1-800-273-8255. If you're going through some of that stuff, give them a call, reach out to us. We'll help you out too. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and plug that now for the safety of the show and the listener.
There you go. Way to bring it back to being an adult. That's a responsible adult, not me.
It is. That's what I'm here for.
So depressing weekend, blah, blah, blah. We are going to watch the documentary Gamers, and that is spelled G4M3RS. What other way would you spell it?
I hope that's the worst part of the documentary. Okay? Like, I really hope that's the worst part of the documentary is the title.
Yeah, it's Gamers, a documentary. So just skipping through, it's like an hour long, hour and 10 minutes. You can find it on YouTube. It looks to be about, I forget what listener suggested this to us, so my apologies on that one. But it's supposed to be like the early days of Counter-Strike. So we've thought, hey, they're going to giant LAN parties. DreamHack was a giant LAN party. We have the major. It'll, kind of, you see what we're doing here. We're tying it into the theme.
Do you know if it's like 1.6 related? or even prior?
Given the tube monitors, I'm gonna have to assume at least 1.6.
Okay.
At
No,
least.
that's perfect. I don't want to see anything like CS:GO related. You know,
No. This
yeah.
was, in fact, you know what? Let me pull up the link here real quick. So it was published on YouTube 2014. I don't even know if that's when this was actually made, though. You know what I'm saying? It could just be
Yeah.
this particular one.
Looking at some of it, just like you said in passing here, it looks dated. It looks like we're going
Okay,
back
here you
into the
go.
1.6 pre-days.
Gamers, a documentary came out in 2002. So it's
Perfect.
you are again much like the Smash Brothers. I hope it's like stepping into a time machine and getting those same vibes, because this is again right in our wheelhouse because we're old and Anuj. When we went to LAN parties, chugging in our 2 monitors that weighed 40 pounds, and how we ever had the desk. I mean, I run out of desk space now with like paper thin monitors.
The monitor was your desk
Yeah,
back then.
yeah.
You had very limited. There was none of this keyboard angling all the way.
No.
You did that only because you lacked space. I think maybe that's where it came from.
that's where that whole the keyboard lean came from. It's because you didn't have desk space. So it's like, all right, this is what I'm doing. This is where carpal tunnel started, because you just played with like the smallest. This is why everyone played on super high sensitivity at one point in time. So yeah, Gamers, a documentary. I'll tweet it out and everything there, but that's going to be for next Thursday's show. So in 1 week, you have a week to watch an hour-long documentary. I think we can manage. So that's
I'll be on the 21st.
Yeah. So that's that. What else here on Sunday? Anuj, myself, and the old host Brett, may he rest in peace, we'll be doing a Call of Duty Warzone tournament. So we'll be streaming that. I don't know any of the details other than I'm in it.
It's being hosted by Dallas Competitive Gamers, and we're friends with the guys out there. They're hosting it. They asked us to come and participate, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. It should be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be kills based for the most part. Couldn't tell you much more than that, other than we have a chance.
I feel more confident in this than I did any other Counter-Strike tournament we joined.
Yeah.
Like,
I've
if
never
it's
felt
just
confident
kills,
going
I
to a
can go
Counter-Strike
YOLO.
tournament.
Right? Like I can get the kills. It's winning is a different story. If we had to win, Warzone and me don't get along on the winning category, I feel like my patience in BR games are completely out the window. So don't play with me if you want to win. But I am.
We drop hot to fight.
Yes, I drop hot. I'm a dog chasing that bone, and I got to get those kills. So I don't want to say I'm confident, but I mean, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Last but not least on the show news, we probably don't do this often enough, Anuj, but I did just want to thank all of our listeners for always tuning in and everything here. Our listener numbers have gone up recently. That normally means someone posted our stuff somewhere, so we just, unfortunately, we don't know where, but very cool. So that's always a nice thing. We streamed yesterday. I'll give a personal shout out to our listeners, Tavik and Joey. You guys are nuts with the donations, so we definitely appreciate it. That will definitely
absolutely insane. Guys.
Listen, when we can travel, it's things like that, right? It's the support on Twitch when we're live, or even just like I said, one of the best things you can do to support the show is just follow and interact on Twitter. Make us look popular, right? That's always good. And on Discord, it's always nice to talk to you. But yeah, just truly insane for their donations and everything like that. So
it was fun. That was exciting. These guys are loyal to this show in so many ways, right? Like outside of the donations, they're very active, and so we always appreciate them and their support and everyone's support. Obviously, like it's just yesterday was a cool day. It was fun to see that.
Yep. Also, congratulations to our listener Tavik. He was the one who signed that recent deal, being a streamer for Malicious something.
I don't have it pulled up.
Tavik, you're in Twitch chat. What is it? Malicious something? I'm going to look this up right now. A proper host would have wrote this down because I looked it up right before the show. Malicious threat. Malicious threat, Anuj. That's what it was. So congratulations, Tavik, on that. You're one step closer for being ninja or whatever.
Well, you'll have our support for sure.
Yeah. So there you go. Take that with you to Uno night, which we are also going to get an Uno night. Maybe this weekend at some point. I don't know. It's a very positive thing is Uno's a very low setup game. Like it's just, we don't have to get 20 people to do it. It's like 4 people, I think, per table. So
being online, you just probably click a button to like hand out cards. And,
yeah, it's like very low rent. It's like $10 on Steam. So we're going to have Uno nights if you want in on that one, because Uno's the next big esport for sure. You heard it here first. Okay, so there it is for show news. Again, Gamers, a documentary. We'll tweet it, look it up. But that's going to be for next week's Thursday show. So in 1 week, you got time. Let's get over to clutch or kick, though, Anuj, because we got a handful of these to get to. And we've kind of teased it the last 2 episodes, but most recently, I really wanted to talk about this. And that is Halo Master Chief Collection for the PC. Now, just recently, just yesterday, in fact, they dropped Halo 2, which again got everyone. I mean, that is like the nostalgia hit right there, right? That's what gets everyone's excited and everything there. But to my surprise, I go to Twitch, and I remember when Reach was released, like original on PC. Man, everyone was playing it on Twitch. Everybody. It was like the top game. Well, that was not the case with this one. Halo 2 came out and you had a handful of big people playing it, but for the most part, like I'm looking at it right now, it's in between Poker and Portal 2 on Twitch with 7.6 thousand viewers. 7,500 people watching it.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into several issues as to why that is, right?
So
we'll probably do that.
Yeah, the clutch or kick theme here is, did 343 Industries, the publishing company behind Halo, did they completely botch the Halo MCC PC release? And on a 2-part for that, will they botch Infinite's PC release? I'll go first here. I'm going to say both of these, and I'm the Halo homer here. Remember this. If there was going to be one of us to love this unconditionally, it would have been me. But I'm going to have to clutch this because they 100% botched Halo on PC. How you take a game like Halo that had one of the largest hype trains behind, almost like a Valorant-esque hype train going into it when they released Reach. And that's when everyone knew, like, hey, we're not here for Reach is the appetizer. I'm here for Halo 2, Halo 3, maybe Halo CE's multiplayer, a few of us here and there. But like we all knew going into it, we're going to play Reach for a little bit, get our feet wet, but when Halo 2 drops, that's when we're jumping in, right? That's what we all said. That's what everyone said because that was the game that got us all started on it. Well, no one's playing Halo 2 right now on PC. And Reach was completely botched because 343 Industries bent the knees to the controller users. They took what everyone was so excited about with the PC release and made it almost like a console version that you're playing on a PC. I think it was completely botched to the point where now I don't have faith in the studio that they know what direction they want to take Halo, right? Like, I think like Ubisoft did it great with Rainbow, where when Rainbow Six Siege first came out, they had both a PS4 league, and I believe even an Xbox league, and a PC league. Eventually they said, this isn't working out, we're going to PC. Only PC now. So that's where the official competitive leagues are played. And you know what? Sure, you pissed off your console players and things like that, but
They still have the game though.
They
It's not
still
like they took
have the
away the
game.
game from console and made it 100% PC. It's just the competitive side was focused on PC. So they didn't lose it. I understand where some of the frustration comes from, but you're probably getting the better viewing experience watching people play it on PC from a competitive standpoint.
Yeah. So I just think there, and Tavik says in chat, it doesn't help the fact that Halo 2 came out when everyone's still on the Valorant grind, which is, I mean, that's 100% true. You have a lot of those guys that would play it casually, but now they're, all competing for a team pretty much, or viewership or whatever with Valorant. But still, like this one, I feel like you had it on a silver platter and somehow goofed it up completely to the point where the console players don't want to play on PC because it's on PC. They have the Xbox. Why would they play on PC? But the PC players don't want to play because you have made the game so, like, you've given the controller players, what am I looking for? So much assistance, right? Not even just aim assist, but you've just geared it more towards like, hey, we know controller isn't as smooth as a mouse and keyboard, so we're going to make the aim assist kind of to where it will be fair, but it's really not fair in the sense, I don't know, but just they completely botched it.
Yeah, I'm going to agree and disagree on a couple different things here. So definite clutch for botching Halo Master Chief Collection. It could not have been more brutal, unfortunately, because they did have the hype riding really high when the game launched. I mean, really high. You had all the big name streamers at least jumped in. Again, I understand Valorant's there now, so that's taking away from like some of them, but like somebody like Summit, it's not like he's running back to play Halo 2, and he really is one of the true like cheerleaders for the game, right?
Yeah.
But the way that they've handled the Master Chief Collection, the timelines were too far out between releases. They should have released Reach, given us we got our feet wet, and then boom, a month later hit us with Halo 2. To think people were going to be interested in playing old versions of Halo for extended periods of time in the gaming market that we have right now in this day and age where there's 1,000 choices, you're out of your damn mind. Like there was no way people were going to be hooked on this game for 2 to 3 months and then be waiting for Halo 2 this whole time to like come out, and in between Halo I think came out as well. So the way that they released it and the scheduling, definite botch on their part. The second part, I absolutely agree with you. Having the aim assist the way it is, the differences between PC and using a controller is so drastic and everybody notices it. That was a big F up because this game was supposed to be tailored for PC. They were releasing this on PC. Like this is not being re-released on console. This is a PC release.
It's
And
not
you've turned it in.
crossplay.
Yeah, like it was a PC game. Like this is what was coming out for PC. They had nothing to do with the console side. They weren't re-releasing things for console, to make it new for them. This was to cater to a new audience. And what did they do? They isolated us and they've separated us. And people are not interested in going back now, I think, until Infinite comes out. I don't think there's going to be any hype behind 3, 4, whatever else is scheduled. I just don't see the Master Chief Collection gaining any traction from here on out. This is not a Halo 2 issue, a Halo 3 issue. This is the way that they've done it.
Yeah.
People lost interest. To the second half of this, I'm going to kick so far on botching Infinite. I think this is a really good awakening. I think this is a moment that should provide some clarity on how you need to handle Infinite on PC. If they don't do that, it's a sign of stupidity, a sign of people that don't understand their audience ultimately. And that'll come back in Yikes of the Week very quickly to recap this, once Infinite comes out. But I really hope that this becomes a learning mechanism going into Infinite and we have a better experience going into that game. They cannot afford for Infinite to fail. There is no next Halo coming out in the foreseeable future. There's been a long gap between Halo games. So if they truly want Infinite to succeed in various markets, right? It's already going to do good on Xbox, right? But if you want it to do good on PC, you have to tailor it
Yeah.
towards the PC player. I
And I-
think they have a chance of doing that. I think they will do that.
And I think too, what we need to let people know is like when we say succeed, I don't mean in sales. I
It's
mean
going to do great. Yeah.
in longevity of like the esports competitive scene. That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking of. Like the fact that we are just now only getting Master Chief Collection tournaments for PC is kind of a joke. Like we have had how many Valorant tournaments, Anuj? In a closed beta?
15 to 20 already by big name
Big
team
and that's
sponsors.
the big. We're not even those
Yeah.
like there's even been small. I mean, hundreds of Valorant tournaments already have happened, and the only Halo PC that I can remember was DreamHack Anaheim. That was it. That's the only one I can remember off the top of my head, and that they allowed controller users. And I don't want to sound like a PC master race. We just did a segment on CDL. I have no qualms about using a controller in the right setting, but if you're gonna sell me a PC game, you better be selling me a PC game with a mouse and keyboard. I do not want controller. I just don't even need the question of controller assist. I don't want to hear it.
Separate the users, if anything.
Yeah.
Different lobbies, if you have to.
Call of
and then
Duty
see
has
how
done it.
dead your game is, right? If you separate the users, the fear there for them is probably, oh shit, we have nobody playing anymore on mouse and keyboard, so they can't do that. And that should be a really good telltale sign of, okay, we effed this up. Like, we better fix this, or look what's going to happen to our esports market when this releases, at the end of the year. It's not that far away. Like, we're less than, we're a little over 6 months away from the title releasing. I think it's coming out sometime in December, if I'm not mistaken, whenever Xbox
who knows
new
timetables
console
nowadays.
comes out. But yeah, I mean, like, it's really not that far away. And unfortunately, the hype behind Halo is completely dead right now. There's nothing driving it right now.
Yep. Kind of sucks because I'll give them some benefit of the doubt that maybe E3 there was things planned, like all that. So
look, if one of them want to come on the show and talk about it with us, we've
love
had an
it.
open invite to them for a long time. We would love to have the discussion of, a little bit of behind the scenes talk. You're talking to your fan base. Like, there's a lot of y'all out there that love Halo. So if any of them want to come onto the show and tell us differently, we're very open to it, and we're rooting for your success. We're here to help. So invitation's open.
Yeah, I've literally reached out to everyone under there for Halo esports and have either gotten no's or nothing from them. So I would love to, like I said, I'm like one of the biggest cheerleaders for Halo. You know this. I would love for it to be a top tier esports again. If there was a Halo documentary like Smash was back in MLG days, you would probably see me in every Dallas episode because you just see this kid with curly hair and tie-dye shirts playing Halo, but
Not a lot's changed.
right now, not a whole lot has changed except for now I'm wearing high quality alt t-shirts. But yeah, I don't know. And maybe that's why I'm more aggressive about it, right? Because I do care. I'm too close. My heart is too close. Next to our next topic in Clutch or Kick, though, Anuj. Don't know if you saw this. We just had Launders on. I kind of wish we knew about it so we could talk to him. But Blast is contemplating a rule tweak to allow mid-range lineup changes, mid-match lineup changes. So meaning like halftime of maps, you could switch it up and things like that. Are we seeing the dawn of a new age of Counter-Strike?
Biggest kick ever. I hate this. I absolutely hate this. And I know you might feel a little different here on this because I think I saw you tweet something out earlier, if I'm not mistaken. So I cheated a little bit. But absolutely hate this idea. That is not Counter-Strike. You do not make mid-map changes. I don't care if they do it between games in a series, like some mid-series changes between map 1 and 2. If you have a better lineup tiered towards a certain map, sure, I could kind of become a little bit more open to that. Mid-map changes, though, man, like we're talking about, we don't even have coaches talking. How the hell are we all of a sudden like okay with implementing like player changes mid-match? To me, it makes no sense. It's not traditional Counter-Strike. Maybe this is like my get off my lawn moment here, but I really do not like the idea of that. I'm not even sure how I feel about teams having more players on their roster right now. Like, Astralis is the only one, obviously, with 7. We've seen, I don't even know who else has really 6 at this point. Nobody seems to be riding that wave all of a sudden. But I just don't like the idea of that. I don't want to see rosters kind of inflate and stack up multiple players. Like, I want to see these guys kind of spread out and open up, um, the playing field, having more teams that are good and consistent and competing at a high level. So to me, huge kick. Do not like the idea. I really hope that they don't go that route.
So I'm gonna clutch because I do think we are seeing a new age of Counter-Strike on the way it's played in front of us. I'm not saying it's for the best. I'm not saying it's gonna work. It's probably going to fail. But for the foreseeable future, I think we're going to see teams try to mimic Astralis, especially if it works out in one tournament, right? Counter-Strike and esports in general is such a copycat league where if one thing works for another team, point in case Astralis and their utility usage, you're all going to see some teams try to pick up these, 6th or 7th man. Now is the perfect time to do it because you have teams disbanding left and right with some guys going over to Valorant and some are left in the dust. So now these players have the question to answer. Do I want to be on an orgless tier 2 team or even an orgless tier 1 team, right? Or would I rather be a 6th man or a 7th man on Astralis or Navi or Liquid, or you know what I'm saying? Like, would you rather be a 6th man on a contending roster and sub in and out, or would you rather be on orgless?
So what would you do in this? Like, let's say the other option is not orgless, but maybe like a low level tier 2 team. Okay, so let's use that as the example. There are a lot of people that are orgless, so I understand where you're coming from there. But if you were in that position, okay, and let's say you're a mid tier 2 player, right? And all of a sudden Astralis offers you, hey Tim, we want you to come be our 7th man on our roster. Not the 6th, you're now the 7th man on this roster. What incentive would you have as a player? Like, A, why would they play you, right? If you're going to field your best team at all times, other than the occasional one-off where somebody's not traveling, why on earth would they play you? And then as a player, where is your competitive drive at that point to go this route, knowing that you're not going to play?
The
like, to me, that's not
drive,
that Mamba mentality of like, I'm going to go to a team, I'm going to be a bench warmer here.
Right. So, and I'll answer both of those parts. The first part is I think that's why this doesn't work out, because we've never seen the substitution role work in esports. And that's because it's not like a normal traditional sport where players physically need a break. Sure, mentally here and there sometimes with esports, but it's not like a pitcher or a goalie.
One-offs. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's not like that. We've never seen, even in Overwatch League or Call of Duty League, if you are getting subbed, it's pretty much your death note at that point. Like, if you are getting subbed out and to have a sub come in for you, you might as well be looking for another team or start your streaming career, because there's just no coming back from it unless some giant meta patch shifts things for you. But it's
Enable circumstance is very rare where he's coming back into Seattle's lineup. Like, you're right. You don't see that often at all.
Unheard of. Look at I think of our local team, the Dallas Fuel, for the Overwatch League. How many substitutions they made with their roster, and most of the time, you never saw that starting player back again in a starting role. You might have seen them pop up here and there in meaningless maps, but you never saw them start up again on a starting role. And that's why I don't think this would work, because that's not it. Now, maybe on like the mid-map changes, right? Maybe you, for whatever reason, really feel like one player is better on Terrace side than CT, which I've never...
Like, maybe they play a very specific spot.
I mean, like, it's gotta be...
Like, if somebody's really good at playing drop, for example, CT side, like, if that is your honey hole,
yeah,
okay, maybe. But I just don't like Do
been
you
a
like
play.
the idea of mid? Like, so I
Oh,
know
look, I love the idea. You want to add more drama, more substitutions, more what ifs? I love that. Especially
so
as
you
someone who
like
has
the
to
idea,
talk
you just
about
don't
it.
think it'll actually work out.
Oh yeah, I love the idea. But
Where I
crazier,
hate the idea and I hope it doesn't work out.
right? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it will work out. I hope it does, but I don't think it will. But to bring it back to traditional sports, what was it, like a season or two ago? The Tampa Bay Rays in baseball did it where they flipped their pitching rotation, where they started with closers and ended with starters, because they were like, why would we want our best guys in the end of the game? And it worked for them. I think they made playoffs, or at least like highly increased their wins that season. So that was very untraditional, and it worked. So we just haven't seen it ever work that way in esports. No one, like, the teams, just you play your best players, right?
Egos are generally high, and
Yes.
you usually know who your best players are,
Yeah.
like your 5 best, right? Like, you know that that's your squad. There's got to be one group practicing more with one another than
Yeah.
than the subs are going to get. So
I
I
don't
just don't
ever
like the
see a
mid
mid-map.
map.
Yeah.
Like, the mid map bothers me. I can live with this rule. Should it be mid series at some point? Like, you have an opportunity to change out in a best of 3.
Yeah.
Maybe you get 2 subs or something in a best of 3, so you can do 1 at the end of each map, or you can do 2 for one particular map. But I really dislike the mid match lineup changes. Like, to me, great for drama. That'll be fun
Right.
to talk about. Like, it'll really be fun to talk about. But I think for gameplay purposes, like, I would just, oh gosh, I would hate it.
And I think your other question there is, like, what if I were a tier 2 player or whatever? If I was a player like FNS, where I've made my tour around the world, I'm playing on every team, or like a Keo, right? Where I've done everything. Even Keo, people forget Keo's won a major. Like, what world are we living in where Keo won a major? I just can't, for how little credit he gets. I would totally, like, I honestly think at that point in my career, I'll sign with Astralis. I will sign with a top tier org and be their 6th or 7th man if I truly feel like my career is done as far as getting signed on by a top tier team.
But that's knowing you would never play if you're doing that, right? Like, if you're going to Astralis and you're FNS, you're going there with the notion that you are a second coach. You are somebody that's going to help advise. You're not coming in as a player role. 6th man, sure, by title, but you're never going to play in that situation. So that's also, like, different than what I would consider like S-Tag or somebody like that, Jugi, like the newest signing for them going there doesn't make sense to me because they can play at a tier 1 level and they've kind of proven it to some extent. Where FNS is like somebody at the tail end of his career. So that example works for him
Right.
because he's somebody that's not going to ever get onto a high level tier 1 team again. Like, his career's kind of past that point, which is why we'll probably see him in Valorant pretty soon too.
Yeah, you could almost do an impromptu. We'll save this for a later clutch or kick, but an impromptu. We'll do it for an over and under. How many players will we see back in Counter-Strike? Because look, we cannot have just a complete shift of Overwatch League players and Counter-Strike players and then fill the gap for Valorant. I cannot believe it that's just what Valorant is going to be, is all these former pros from other teams, right? Or from other games.
It's unfortunate in a way because they're the ones that are going to get the opportunity immediately.
Yeah.
Because obviously they have skill from other games. So maybe identifying new young talent in Valorant may be slightly difficult for the first year or so. Like, it's going to be hard to be recognized because the people you're going up against are already very popular.
Yeah. And last but not least, for clutch or kick, we talked a little bit about it with Launder's last episode, but I know we wanted to kind of have our take on it as well. And that is 2020 does not count, specifically in CS, is I think where our conversation is going to be geared towards, because it's all online.
Yeah, I think it has to count, Tim. So, I mean, it has to count. But again, that asterisk would be there stating that maybe this was an online year. I think where it gets a little cloudy or murky is if all your major events are being canceled. So whether that's for Counter Strike, the major, for Dota, the international, like if these events are not there, it kind of messes up the ranking because that helps so much in validating a team's success throughout the year by topping it off by winning one of those events and really proving you're the best team. But
Mhm.
I do think there's still importance held in who's coming out of this doing well, like who's performing well, who's making a name for themselves. These tournaments are still going to show standings. It's still going to be on Wikipedia when you go look it up 10 years from now of who won this particular event. You're not going to know then, oh, 2020, that was the coronavirus year. Like you might not think about that immediately. So yeah, it has to count. Is it different? Yes. Does it, different people may step up that we are not accustomed to, and that may be the case, but it has to count in my mind.
I 100% agree with everything you said. This takes me back to the days where a lot of the leagues you saw played online and then they had offline finals, right? Like
Like
ESL
you're talking
Pro
about
League did this,
ESL,
yeah, all the
VP,
time.
and all that.
Yeah. Yep. So the EPL did this all the time, and that was always the beef with Virtus Pro. Is people said, "Oh, Virtus Pro, they don't care about the online matches, which is why they do poorly in them." Well, my argument to that, and even like for Thorin's power ranking list. Okay, I don't even know if he still does it, to be honest with you, but he used to always post his power rankings for CS, and it was only of offline events. He never included online events for some of these teams, and I never really felt like that was fair, because a lot of these teams, when they're invited, or again, this was not so much now, but you needed to perform on the online qualifiers. You needed to perform on online events so you would get invites or qualify for the offline events. So to say the online events didn't mean anything, I felt was kind of discrediting a lot of the team's performances in those. Because to me, in my eyes, and I've also get bit in the ass from this one a lot when you're trying to bet on games, Anuj, which is a nightmare nowadays because everything's online. Even though it's online, I 100% think it counts. But to like how you said, it's definitely different. Like anything can happen online. Like the worst team could beat the best team, and the first justification to that is, well, it's online, so who knows what's going on.
I do think we'll see that play out a little bit, where the teams that are sneaking up and kind of getting some of these wins here and there that are unexpected, I think that'll start to fade as this year becomes an online year, as people become more accustomed to playing in the current situation that we're in. Versus like early on, there was a lot of stuff that was up in the air. Players were moving around and figuring out their situation. So we were seeing a little bit more. We saw Astralis perform poorly, quite a few times during that period. But I do think that these teams will kind of start to level out a little bit, and we'll start to see the big dogs kind of dominate a little bit more than they have been. Right? We've seen, an NACS has kind of been a little bit of a joke, recently, obviously, with the way Liquid has performed, the way Evil Genius has performed. But I do think these guys will also rebound here going into the second part of the year.
Yeah, so I for people trying to dismiss everything that's happening this year, and not just in Counter-Strike, right? We see it all the time now with CDL, where it's like, oh, well, you guys won online, right?
I do see Thorn's latest rankings, Tim. He has Gen G ranked number 1 in the world, Mad Lions 2, Cloud9 3, and Astralis is 17.
See, I think you're trolling at this point.
Envy at 4. Yeah, I know I am.
But
it's all
joke,
Flashpoint teams.
Because if you look at that, that is somewhat how like his rankings worked. Let me see here. March 10th, I think, was the last time he did this.
He can't do it without being biased now. There's no way his rankings would even have any value.
True, yeah, because there's no way he's going to
put it. It would be like Cloud9 ranked number 1 in the world right now.
There's no way he's going to put right. Contact is top 10 for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like,
It's like, hey, all your top 10 teams are Flashpoint teams there, Thorn. What happened? But yeah, I just think when every other team's playing online and stuff, it's kind of silly to try to make the argument that it doesn't count. Yeah, it's definitely different, but I don't know.
everyone's going through the same thing. You're
Yeah.
all in the exact same situation. So for me, still a level playing field. It's online, still a level playing field though.
Yep. All right, let's get in to some e-news. A little bit to get to here, talking about disbanding teams in CSGO. Bad news bears are no more. They are done, disbanded.
A little bit of a surprise there because these guys had an opportunity they had a spot in the DreamHack Masters event. They were playing in the Road to Rio. They were, doing fairly well for the level that they're at. So to see them, Crashies left for Valorant early on, which put them in a tough spot. Now the rest of them are kind of going different directions. Dapper moving over to Valorant. That was a little bit more of a surprising one though, because they had been playing, decent enough to like hold their spot.
It's just where these orgs, though, right? These orgless teams, the orgs aren't buying tier 2 Counter-Strike teams at the moment. Now, the marketplace might level out here and there, but I feel like tier 2 Counter-Strike was spoiled for a lot of years. And now it's, there's competition.
Again, I'm surprised they didn't do it after like the Masters event because they have a chance to make some money there. Like that's just a couple weeks away.
Just to see.
End of the month. So yeah, a little surprising.
Do you have a quick Road to Rio update for us?
Yeah, I mean, so the EU bracket's still going on. In the upper final, you have Astralis going up against FaZe. That's going to be an awesome freaking match because both of those teams have been playing so well. Astralis 2-0 G2. FaZe and Nip, if you didn't get to watch that game, I'd go back and check it out. That was one of the better 3-game series we've probably seen up until this point. But FaZe and Astralis both advanced in the upper bracket finals. Lower bracket finals are still kind of catching up there. North America, Tim, Gen G did come out on top of the North American bracket. I mean, I'm 100% surprised with that. And I'm, in fact, Furia being second is surprising. Cloud9 being third is even more surprising.
That's not surprising. It's surprising that they're third. I agree. I figured number 1 or at least number 2.
So, I mean, to the big names, Liquid finished at 4, Evil Geniuses and MIBR tied for 7 and 8.
Envy, though, 5th.
100 Thieves.
Give a shout out for Envy.
Yeah, Envy finishing at 5, is a surprise also. They played really well. They played well against good teams. I think they 2-0'd Liquid, if I'm not mistaken. So for them to finish in 5th is a pretty solid spot in that grouping. But yeah, all the big names really struggled on the NA side. Oceania, Renegades advanced. They finished first there. And then in Asia, Tiger, Tyloo, VC, those round out your top 3. Tyloo not finishing first, probably a little bit of surprise. VC finishing third, fourth, a little bit of a surprise. Tiger, no idea who they are.
And we have the DreamHack Masters start next week, as Anuj was just saying, with Bad News Bears dropping out and everything there. And CSGO did another update, coincidentally, right when Valorant also did another update. So what are some of the fixes there?
Really, the main one that came out of this for me was the grenade damage. So basically, if you were elevated, you were on a staircase or something, and you got hit with a nade or a nade landed close by, the damage didn't disperse properly. And it was like really weird because sometimes a nade would land on somebody on the stairs and then take like 13 damage. Then
other times it would one-shot you, and you're like, what the hell is going on right now?
It just made sense for them to fix it. I only say this because, again, I'm finding it amusing at the pace that we are now getting out updates for Counter-Strike. These used to kind of be bundled into a big update and not like these one-off little quick fixes. It's nice that they're doing that now. So it is a positive. But this is the Valorant effect. Again, like people have been complaining about this for really as long as I can remember. So for it to all of a sudden be patched randomly was nice.
In COD news, we have the Surge Home Series again is May 22nd. Has the big ones in there with Huntsman, OG, Rocker, Subliners. And I have here, you asked, are we more excited for it after this past week? I think we discussed it a little bit earlier, but you
I kind
know,
of am. I'm more interested for sure. Like, I mean, I'm interested to see how OG and subliners do. That's where my interest lies, is in watching how those team perform the next time around. And then Huntsman, it's kind of, it feels like it's been a little bit of a shit show as of late for them,
yeah,
with all
that's
the
true.
drama internally. So would like to see how they perform with none of the other top tier talent. Like, they're expected to win this event. So if they don't do it, what does that look like for Huntsman going into, the following weekend where all the big guys are there in Minnesota? So I think this is a big event for the Huntsmen to rebound. I think they need to win it though to keep some of this camaraderie going that they kind of been seems to be lacking as of
Feels
late.
like it's about to implode.
It does, right? But I don't like it.
Like it's very rare that a top 3 roster just feels like it's about to implode, but we might see it. We might just see it. Like,
could Pristini potentially be joining that roster or something?
I
Like, I
would-
mean, I feel like something's going to happen
doesn't
here if
make
they don't
sense.
perform well May 22nd.
like things are going okay, guys. Like, let's calm down.
Yeah.
And in Valorant news, you have T1 signs Food as their 4th player.
Good deal.
That's all I got there for you.
Good deal.
Cool. And they also though did a very big patch, as they ended up adjusting the first shot. Basically, they made it to where, if I had to sum it up, and I'm sure you have actual patch notes in front of you or something,
Yeah.
because you're the more of the patch notes guy. But they seem to make it more consistent to what you were seeing or what you should be feeling while playing.
It's really the walking accuracy was like the big change. So like with the walking accuracy, basically when you were transitioning from running to walking, your accuracy was pretty pinpoint accurate, as we've noticed. Like, moving and shooting in that game feels really good. Like, it's really easy to do, especially for us CSGO players who are so accustomed to, like, oh god, dead stop right when I'm about to shoot, right? Like, if you are moving at all in Counter-Strike, it's pretty brutal in terms of your accuracy. They're kind of shifting it more to that. So think along those lines, where your walking accuracy, you're no longer immediately in walking accuracy after you stop running. There's more of a slowdown period. So you have to be a little bit more precise with your shots. I think it'll help differentiate the playing field a little bit more. Right now, there's a lot of all-stars in this game, and it's because the aiming and the active killing is like, it feels really easy. Like, it's not hard to get
I've
frags in
never
this game.
been less impressed with headshots in my
Yeah.
life than I do in it's like Valorant. It's like, oh cool, you got another triple headshot kill. All right, someone's gonna get it next round.
So I think it's a good change. I'm curious to see how that plays out. Really, the other big things here, Tim, were Sage and Cypher both receiving nerfs. Cypher's a little bit more small in terms of its effect. There's no longer a slow tied to his
Shield thingy,
shield or whatever thing that he
projector,
pops
whatever
up.
you call it.
His version of a smoke, right? It no longer slows the player. Sage, a little bit more of a big nerf. For Sage, her slow orbs only do like 50% reduced speed, and you can't like double stack them now. I think that was needed because Sage is like a really dominant player. So it was reduced from like 65 to 50%. The duration was reduced from 9 seconds to 7 seconds. This is bringing her back a little bit more in line. So I do think that was a good move. You can tell they're also buffing some of the characters that are a little bit notoriously weaker. Omen, Viper are seeing some things happen to help increase their viability within the game. You don't see them picked too often. Omen a little bit more. I play him a decent amount because of the smokes, but they're not like widely regarded as like the top end picks. So again, consistent tuning. Like, I love this. And
Yeah.
it's long patch notes. If you haven't seen these guys, like, it is so in depth and it's so precise with the information they give you. It's beautiful. So I really hope that this is what we should expect from this game going forward. They've done it since day one. I hope this is not like, let me do this during beta and then we go live and it becomes
just
stale.
stops.
But yeah, this is great though. It's been good.
Yep.
They even
And
said bullet tagging, Tim, is being looked at. So like your
the aim punch.
they're saying aim punch is being like widely looked at right now, which for me has been the biggest issue because you could get one lucky shot on somebody and it basically stuns them. It's effectively a stun at that point. So I hope that they look at that and they actually change that. But they did come out and say that that's definitely on their list of things to go through for this next patch.
Needs to happen ASAP. Also, keep an eye on our Twitter and Discord. We might have some Valorant news of our own coming out shortly. So keep an eye on Twitter at the Center Ring. Hit up us in Discord as well for that. And in other news here, if you've been keeping an eye on it, Sony has released some PlayStation 5 gameplay showing off the new Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah, and that's big for a couple of reasons. Epic announced that they're going to be using Unreal Engine 5 next year for Fortnite, so that should change the way that that game looks, potentially feels, and
Maybe
plays.
that's why it's been in early access. They just knew that they were waiting for Unreal 5.
The new UE5 was right around the corner. If you haven't seen the videos, guys, for the PS5 showing off like their content, I'll retweet it. We'll throw it out there for you to look at. But it is gorgeous.
Yeah,
it looks so good. Like I was really.
I'll take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
We've
you
been
always
here
do,
before.
right? Like we've seen this. We've seen this with like Killzone trailers and things like that from back in the day. Like look incredible, and then all of a sudden you're in game and it's like, wow, what is this? But I hope if you can expand on Unreal Engine, it's already gorgeous. Like Unreal 4 is insane what you're able to do with it. So it's exciting to see that they're still evolving that, right? Like it's not slowing down. Like a new one's out. So.
Now the only thing we need is an actual Unreal tournament game.
That won't happen, unfortunately.
Have
you played the game that they have on their Epic Game Store for Unreal Tournament?
No, because I've heard that it's really bad, so I just didn't want to ruin it.
Yeah, I'll have to put the prevention line number out there again if we play that game. Dude, it's terrible.
I love Unreal, so I was like, I just want to keep those memories.
That's a good call.
Keep those memories happy, Anuj. I don't want to ruin it. All right, well that does it. That's it. Episode 238. It's done. It's in the books. Thank you so much for listening. If you listened to the whole thing or skipped around, love you all the same. We will be back for Sunday night to record Monday's episode live on Twitch. So follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring so you know when we go live and you can be involved with that. Also, we are going to be streaming that tournament Sunday. I think it starts at noon. Correct? Noon Sunday?
Yeah, noon.
So one of us will be streaming that from our point of view. So you'll definitely be able to see elite Warzone play. And I think that's just about it.
Documentary, guys. Don't forget, we'll tweet that out. Gamers, we'll go over that on the 21st. So that gives everybody a week to go out and watch. It's only an hour. So hopefully you'll tune in and check that out. So it'll be a fun discussion next week.
All right, homies. Well, thank you so much again for listening. Follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. If you're listening on iTunes, you know what to do. Leave that 5-star review. We enjoy reading them. I'm Tim for Anuj. We'll see ya.